So the federal government has officially shut down. Many people didn't think it would happen. We're so used to continuing resolutions, coming in at the last minute, saving the day, averting all shutdowns, but it happened much like it happened during Trump's first term. Now, yesterday, there was a vote. We had 2 Democratic senators break line, voted with the Republicans to pass a clean CR. Those 2 Republicans, one's from Nevada, the other one is from Pennsylvania. But it wasn't enough. They needed 5 more Democrats in order to avert a shutdown. It didn't happen. Now, why didn't it happen? The Democrats are taking a stand. They're taking a stand now to show they're willing to fight the Trump administration. And what is it for? It comes down to the number 20. 20 million Americans would be impacted if the Affordable Care Act premium subsidies did not get extended beyond December 31st. So that's roughly 6% of the population of this country. And the big point of contention is Republicans are saying this is for illegal immigrants. The Democrats are saying it's for all people in the country. What does that even mean? We have about 3 million refugees here. Republicans are looking at that as people that are here illegally, but under the Biden administration, there was a pathway carved so that they could accept more applications from refugees. That's why we have so many in the country right now. There are also other people that benefit from the Affordable Care Act premium subsidies. You have self-employed people. You have people that are working in retail jobs, low-income jobs. These people, they do not have insurance provided by their employer. So that's where the number 20 million comes in. Now, this was also done because of the campaign donors. If the Democrats do not stand up, the campaign donors who contribute millions of dollars to their campaigns, they're going to redirect their funds and potentially fund more progressive candidates. So that was a big fear. And we're talking about tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars that go from the campaign donors. A lot of them are NGOs, unions, people, organizations like that. They wanted the Democrats, they wanted Chuck Schumer, everybody to grow a backbone and to push back and to fight the Republicans. Now, this is very uncharacteristic of the Democratic Party because a lot of people, they view the Democratic Party as the party that wants to keep the government running. Okay, so what does this mean for the federal workforce? Well, mass furloughs. We're looking at 550,000 federal workers furloughed. You will see some agencies impacted more than others. EPA, HUD, you have NASA. They're going to be close to 90% furloughed. But interestingly enough, the Trump administration wants to keep more workers working, more people working. Because typically you would see 35 to 40% of the federal workforce being furloughed. Here you're seeing it closer to 23 to 25%. So more workers working for no money. Now they're going to get back pay on, once everything is settled, once the government shutdown is over, they will get back pay. But as far as who's to blame in this, well, if you went on HUD.gov yesterday, you would see that it's the radical left. They're demanding $1.5 trillion. This is alarming to see on any government website because of the Hatch Act. This is a clear Hatch Act violation. They're not supposed to be partisan, but they updated it. Now it just says radical left is responsible for the shutdown. You go to whitehouse.gov, it says the same thing. It says Democrats are responsible for the shutdown. So you're seeing a lot of this energy to blame the Democratic lawmakers because the first time the government shut down under Trump in 2018, President Trump took the blame. He said, I shut this down. Now, that wasn't the best thing he could have said, and he faced a little bit of blowback for that. So now he's making a concentrated effort to point the finger at the Democrats saying, no, I'm not shutting it down. You guys are shutting it down. We also saw a lot of emails go out. You get Social Security Administration, Department of Interior, EPA. A lot of emails were pushed out that were blaming the Democratic Party. Now, this is not something that you would ever see. This is unprecedented. This never happens. It doesn't get so partisan. The office of the president, the administration is above the partisanship when it comes to matters such as government shutdowns, who's responsible for this, who's responsible for that. So we're really entering into a new era. Now, when it comes to the furloughed workers, the big fear here is that furloughed federal workers might be on the chopping block. Because if you can furlough them, they might not necessarily be essential. They're not exempted from the shutdown. So if they're not exempted, if they're not essential, why not just target them for a RIF? That's the big fear right now. But I don't think it's going to come into fruition that way. You have a lot of HR offices that are still furloughing HR specialists. That's who you need. Now, there was some guidance that came out saying that HR, human resource people that are working on developing or modifying a reduction in force, they were going to be considered essential. They're going to keep working so that they can iron out those RIF plans. But as far as hundreds of thousands of people getting RIF because of a shutdown, I don't see that happening. Where the furloughs are hitting the hardest as far as number of individuals, not by percent, by the number of people getting furloughed, is the Department of War. It's something like 300,000 people, or pretty much half of that agency, is going to be furloughed. And this, I believe, creates a little bit of tension, maybe some resentment, because you have half of the agency that is forced to come to work each and every day, and the other half, they're just sitting at home. They're not doing anything, but they're both not getting paid right now. They both will get paid once the shutdown lifts. So it's real easy to envision a scenario where someone is a little resentful of the guy sitting there for up to a month or even longer, not doing anything, getting the same paycheck as the person that's in the office. The military, active duty service members, they're going to keep coming into work. They might not get paid, but they'll be required to come in. And then the contractors, they're kind of worried. They're a little nervous because the contracting officer that they interact with, they might be furloughed. So communication might completely break down. And at a certain point, unless they get a stop work order, they're going to keep working. But at a certain point, you could see some of those contractors not get paid or perhaps even get laid off. That's a possibility. In the IRS, this is really interesting because the IRS is planning to keep everyone there for at least 5 days. So this to me means, do you think the shutdown's only going to be 5 days? Or are you going to continue past that amount? Why plan for only 5 days? Is that the most likely scenario? Could be, but they still have money. That agency has money from the Inflation Reduction Act that the Biden administration passed. There's a lot of money there to keep this agency funded. So even though the Republicans pulled a lot of that money back, they still have money. They can still push forward. Now, every agency should have a shutdown contingency plan. I think there were around 10 or 11 agencies that did not submit it. So if you don't know your status as a federal worker right now, you need to go ahead and send your supervisor a text message and figure out what's happening. Now, here's another thing. So usually during a government shutdown, the agencies tell their federal workers, do not touch your equipment, do not open it, do not check emails, do nothing with it. Just close it, leave it alone. This time it's different. They're telling furloughed workers, go ahead and check your computer periodically because you could get a RIF notice. And we want you to acknowledge the RIF notice. So that's something that hasn't been seen before either. You could potentially get a RIF notice. If you were to get a RIF notice, the 60 days still applies. There's a 30-day waiver, but for most people, I believe if they did push out RIF notices, and if they do, I don't think it's going to be as large as the media is portraying it. But if they do, you should still get 60 days. If you were a part of the DRP and your last day was yesterday, September 30th, and it was in conjunction with a retirement, you're still retired effectively now, but all the paperwork is probably going to get delayed. I received some communication for somebody in the Department of War, I think Department of Navy. They said that their first pension payment, their annuity payment, was going to be multiple months delayed. So you're still going to get it, and you'll still get everything that's owed to you. It's just going to take a lot longer, which is, incredibly inconvenient for the people that were planning on a smooth transition when it comes to retirement. So that leads us to the question, how long will the federal government be shut down? So the last time we could see it was 35 days. It was over the border wall. President Trump took accountability. He took the blame for it. He wanted to get the wall funded. Now, what resolved that shutdown? What happened is people started to see that there were delays in the airport. So a shutdown is not immediately felt by the public. It is slow. And after that 2-week mark, when people are not receiving their paychecks, when the grants are not getting approved for your state, your city, your county, it slowly trickles into the economy, and it can be felt. It can be felt because there's less people with discretionary income that are purchasing goods and services from their local economy. So it impacts everybody. The biggest loser of this government shutdown is the U.S. citizen, the U.S. public. And we've seen a few of these shutdowns take place in the past. Usually the way that they're resolved is public pressure mounts. This happens after paychecks are missed. Parks are shut down for long periods of time. All government services start to become slower and slower. Then you have one side caves or compromises. Usually it's whoever is to blame. Now the Democrats, initially it seemed like they were asking for $100 billion. Now it seems like they're asking for $1.5 trillion because they're taking 1 year of the Affordable Care Act premium subsidies, which equates to roughly $100 billion, and they want to extrapolate it out to 10 years. So that's how you get the figure of $1 trillion. And then they want to go ahead and pull back some of the Medicaid cuts. So all of that is estimated to be valued at $1.5 trillion. So can the Republican Party put that message, continue to send the message that Democrats are responsible for the shutdown? At a certain point, it hurts them politically, and the Democrats will reach some sort of compromise, or maybe they get nothing in return. They just have the show of force, like, hey, we actually tried. We stood up to the Trump administration and we failed, but at least we did it. And maybe that might appease their voters. That might appease their campaign donors. But if you want to know exactly how long it will last, you can look at Polymarket. So people are putting their money on where they think the result will be. And for the government shutdown right now, the odds of it lasting between 10 and 29 days is at 43%. That's the highest, meaning that most people think it will be between 10 and 29 days. The second highest was between 4 and 9 days, and that was at 27%. So it looks like it's going to be at least 4 days. Now, there's been shutdowns in the past that have lasted 2 or 3 hours, and then they're able to figure out this is more than likely not one of those situations. Now, also, yesterday, I think it's important to recognize and realize that yesterday was the last day for over 100,000 federal workers as their DRP came to an end. Now, these people, they either retired or they resigned, and the federal workforce is officially a lot smaller than it was yesterday, and it looks like it will continue to get smaller as this year winds to a close. In addition to this, there was an OPM director interview where the OPM director is kind of like HR for the entire federal government. This person is giving his vision on how the federal workforce will look into the future. And he touches on a lot of subjects, from the hiring freeze, from the return to office mandate, from there being a tech talent shortage within the federal government. It's really interesting what he said. If you haven't heard that yet, I want you to check this video out next. Stay updated by signing up to the free newsletter down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.